Everyone, welcome back to Automotive Anatomy, another Watch and Talk. So first and foremost, thank you guys so much for the love and the support that you guys showed for the podcast that we did last week with our buddy Chris. And most importantly, thank you, Chris, for making the time and just having cool conversations. One thing that I really like about meeting with different people, obviously they're cars, but um, I really like being a sponge when I have conversations with different people because there's always something positive to take out of them. There's always something to learn. Um, there's always something that will benefit me in in a positive manner. So I definitely got a lot out of it, as you guys can tell in the podcast. Chris uh, was so genuine and transparent, and I know it's not easy, especially for an introvert like himself. I'm also an introvert in the, I guess, right, on the, let's go with in the wrong locations, right? If I don't feel comfortable or if I don't sense a good energy, I'm a big believer of that energy and just kind of the vibe. And I really appreciate Chris for making the time for us. It really means a lot. And some of you guys actually got in contact with me and said, "Hey, I'm down to do it if you want to." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." I think people want to hear other people's stories. They want to hear people's thought process. We're not always gonna agree, but at the end of the day, I think it's cool to just be open minded. I think that's ultimately the main thing. I think that I want to push towards other people to be open minded. If you guys notice, we didn't touch base on things like politics or religion. And I'll be honest with you guys, the reason we don't touch base on that is because if I ever share my political views, all I'm gonna do is have half of you guys dislike me, and the other half of you maybe like me a little bit more. Um, Obviously, in the past on social media, I've shared some of my stance on certain things, and as of lately, Instagram, froze my following account, my following. It got stuck at 37,700, and then it stopped for like 2 months, and I keep seeing like, hey, so and so is following you, and then there was like the little flags like, oh, so and so suspicious, and I'm like, okay, well, I can approve it, and I try approving. I legit approve at least 200, and the count never went up. And so I was like, well, let me see if I can delete this certain followers that are quote unquote suspicious. And when I did that, it knocked my account down to 37,000. So, in a blink of an eye, on paper, I lost 700 followers. And it's just been stuck at 37,000. But I know that we have way more than that on social media. But I think it's a great opportunity to kind of go into the segment that I wanted to talk about things that really matter. So it I think a few weeks back I mentioned in one of the vlogs, I can't remember where I went. Oh, to the Junkies Carson Coffee, and I was at the gas station, and I told you guys like, yeah, I didn't sleep. That that night was a little challenging. My son, I think he was teething, so he couldn't go to sleep. So I woke up at like 1:30, and then I didn't fall asleep. Um, but I used the time to edit. I just couldn't go to sleep, and so I edited some stuff, and then that the day before, no, see, I'm getting all my data wrong. It was a big blur, but it wasn't. So okay, I remember. Sorry. So that Friday, because Junkies Meet was on Saturday. That Friday, yes. I'm sorry, guys. That Friday, out of nowhere, Chubbs. Some of you guys know Chubbs. He's my dog. He's 16 years old. Um, you guys know I love him so much. Out of nowhere, he just started like, not being able to breathe. He just froze and just threw himself on the ground and wouldn't move. Couldn't move his legs. Couldn't do anything. Um, I picked him up, and then he started going to he did potty, I guess you could say. And I was like, that's not good. If I'm picking you up and I'm obviously putting some pressure into your tummy or something. So, he peed all over himself, and that's kind of what brought my attention. I looked at him, I'm like, what the heck, and he just couldn't move. And then I told my wife, I'm like, hey, something's wrong with Chubbs, and so she's like, so we're cuddling with him. His eyes were going, white. Like I think he was having seizures or some stuff. And then he started like howling, and I'm like, this is it. This is the end. I understand. We've had him for 16 years, and it's never easy to say goodbyes. I promise you that social media and this story has something to do with what I'm gonna tell you guys, because he kept almost howling and he couldn't breathe. I was like, that's it. Like it's done. So I told my wife, let me see if I can get in contact with my mom so we can drop off my baby, or son, and then we'll go to the ER and make the decision, because it's not fair for us to be selfish and want Chubbs to be with us, and if he's not, something's clearly wrong. We don't know what it is. So both my wife and I are crying, or eyes out, and Chubbs he looks in bad shape. He's shaking. It's bad. It's really, really bad. So we hop on the car, we drive to my mom's, and the whole time he's howling. He's in pain. He's in pain of something. His tummy's like really inflated, and for those that may not know, he actually he's been really, really healthy up to this point. Oh, by the way, I know I'm all over the place because there was a lot in my mind. I'm washing two cars. That's why I'm like going really fast, because we were gonna go on a walk. And I'm like, I need to wash the cars. It's bothering me that the cars are dirty. And she's like, okay, cool. So I wash Rosie in like 10 minutes, and then Chelsea, yes, I name my cars. Chelsea, the CRV, in about 20 minutes. So that's the reason why, if you guys see I'm like moving really fast, is because of that, and because the sunlight was going away. Anywho, so we're driving in the car. I'm just kind of like just thinking. I'm like, this is it. I'm really sad. So many cool memories with Chubbs, and my wife is just really, really, really sad. She's the one that got on my 1-year-old. So we get to my mom's, and we park in the garage so I can go drop off my son, and Chubbs just throws up all over my wife and inside the car. And he threw up, and then he was like, cool, I feel better. It was such a surreal moment, because then my mom came outside to meet us. So she's like, go here, I'll get the baby so that way you guys can go fast. And then Chelsea was walking. She looks at him. She's like, I thought he was bad. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, just literally a minute ago, he was howling and dying, like the whole time he came here. And all of a sudden, he threw up and he feels better. And she's like, oh, okay, well, you guys are exaggerated. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Like, I picked him up. He went on himself. He couldn't move. I don't know. So hopefully, he didn't get seizures or anything like that. She's like, so you're going to go to the ER? I'm like, I don't think so. I think he's fine. So I'm like, let's just see how he's doing. He ended up, being good. He felt better. He ate something so then that was a Friday. Oh, I remember why. Okay, see, it all comes back to me. I'm like, why didn't I sleep that night? So that was a Friday. I make the mistake of coming home with, obviously with Chubbs, and I feed him his normal portion. I'm thinking he's fine. He threw it up. Well, he must have eaten something that really was stuck in his, his stomach or somewhere. So when I gave him his normal portion of food, which is wet food, because he's missing like 50% of his teeth, at night he's throwing up, and I'm like, okay, so I stay with him, like, okay, he threw it up. Maybe it was just that. A couple hours later, he's throwing up again. A couple hours later, he's throwing up. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, man. Like, hopefully nothing bad overnight happens. And then, obviously, my son wakes up because he's teething. And I'm like, okay. So I get up. You know, he kind of goes back to sleep. Chubbs continues to throw up. And I'm like, okay, he's thrown up like 4 times. Threw up in different places of the house. And so I'm there cleaning it. 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And I'm just like, damn. And I ended up going to the Carson Coffee, but the whole time I had Chubbs in my mind. And I felt guilty. I was like, why am I here? I need to be with my dog. So I remember I was there, and I don't think I was 100% there. Like, I was just sad. I was sad that I'm like, damn, like, it could be the end. So I remember that specifically that day, I was a little bit more out of it than usual. I was like, let me go home. I want to be with Chubbs. Long story short, we gave him a little bit less food, and he threw up less and less and less, and whatever he ate, I think, is dissolving in his stomach. I saw one hard thing one time, but I didn't see anything else after that. But that was a big scare, and I understand he's 16 years old. He's, it's just part of life. Now, some of you guys may say, well, what does this have to do with social media? I always say that social media is make-believe, and clearly, I'm okay with, the platform like Instagram freezing my following account, because I understand that it's a free platform. Obviously I pay with my personal data, and I pay with ads, having to watch ads every 2 seconds. But I understand that it's a flat platform that I'm using. No one's forcing me to use it or not use it. And you kind of have to play by the rules of the game, right? It's one of those things where if you get mad when you were younger and you were the one that owned the basketball or the soccer ball, you took your ball and you went home. And I think that's how social media is now, where if the CEOs or the stakeholders, they see people comment or do things that go against, quote unquote, their policies, which is whoever gives them their money, then yeah, they're gonna freeze your accounts. They're gonna delete you. They're gonna report you. And I know what happened. I know there was a couple posts that I put, and I know followers. Even I got some pretty strong DMs, and they weren't positive. So I know that they reported my account. But like I said, I don't I try not to, what is it where I'm trying not to, I had the word, I'm sorry guys. I try not to make that following count my personality or who I am. Obviously it helps from a business perspective, but it doesn't define me. There you go. I try not to define me based on the following count. Now, obviously, I say that, but at the same time, I am a little butthurt that's it. Like, I don't think it's gonna grow anymore, and it sucks because it doesn't represent how much value we're bringing. But at the same time, it taught me a lesson. Sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut, I guess, if it's not related to what you're trying to have a conversation. I don't know. I guess I'm just one of those people that, like, I'm not gonna dwell on it too much. But it is also important to understand that, like, nah, man, we're putting in the work and people are supporting us. But because I posted something that goes against whoever's guidelines, then now I'm in this situation. Now, how does that relate to Chubb's story? By the way, the sound, yes, I gotta check it. That was a couple of days back. I gotta check if the clip of the caliper is like rubbing against the rotor. I think that's what the sound is. So thank you guys to whoever. There was like 2 comments, I think, or 3. Armando was one of them that mentioned it. And so at the end of the day, social media to me is more like it's a tool, right? But it's it's make believe in the sense of you can have all these follower counts or subscribers, but in reality, how many are actually gonna be there for you? So the way I think about it is having Chubbs being honestly, this dude saw the light. I know for a fact, like it was bad, guys. Um, it reminded me of like, okay, this is Chubbs today, but it can be someone else. It could be one of my family members, and am I making the time to hang out with them, or am I chasing something else? Um, I like to believe that I try to spend as much time with my family as much as I can. Um, I get it, but we all have things to do, and it can't always work. But I like to text the family and say, "Hey, you guys can come over, or let's go to the pool, whatever," because I understand that um, time is finite. Time is running out, and now with my son, I told you guys that something clicked, something switched for me even more. Like now I'm more paranoid about time and how I'm spending it, and I see him, he's growing up so fast, and I don't like it. I love that he's healthy. I love that he's growing. I love that part. I love seeing him learn. I love how he's improving, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, I'm getting older. I'm no longer that young kid, and then I see my mom, and she's getting older as well. Um, and obviously, that's something that we don't have control over. Time. That's our biggest wealth, our biggest asset. Um, and and so just Chubbs gave me a nice little reality check. Like, hey man, we're mortal, and make sure that you're focusing on the right things. He's fine. He looks healthy. He's been moving. My wife is now in charge of feeding him, so she's feeding him literally like half of what I was feeding him, which is probably healthier for him. He's going on his walks. He's good. He's healthy. I'm very happy. I try to cuddle with him as much as I can, because he's my homie. He always hangs out. Like he at night he stays with me in the living room. Like right now it's late at night, and I'm talking on the living room, and he's here. And then at night, whether it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, I get up, I pick him up. I'm like, all right, let's go to the room with me. He never leaves me by myself, and I love that. So he's my little homie. You guys, used to see him walking in the background. I don't really let him walk in the background anymore here, because I don't want people complaining about the dog not being on a leash, or somebody running him over. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely wanted to share that story with you guys. I think there's many times where I see posts of people passing away. I talked about it in another Watch and Talk, and I realized, like, man, time is so time is just, man, it's crazy. It's crazy how it's going so fast for me, at least. The older I get, the more I feel like I don't do much, but yet time moves faster. And obviously just perspective, but yeah, it's wild. And so with the social media thing, man, I can just say that I love creating. I love being able to have these experiences and watching talks and things like that. But it's never going to be at the expense of my family's time. A lot of you guys always tell me, like, hey, bro, you got to come out to Seattle. You got to come out to Texas or Florida. Can I do it? Of course I can. But what am I sacrificing? I won't say the channel's name out of respect, because obviously they are putting in the work. But the one that I could think of, there was one. And again, I don't know if I'm coming from a negative, or maybe I don't understand the business model, or maybe I'm not saying he's wrong, or that she's wrong. I'm just saying I couldn't do it myself. This gentleman from England, he did a road trip in the U.S. and it was like a 6 weeks. I know 6 days, 7 day, like a 1 week road trip. And I know he has a son, whatever. I can't do that. I know that's not my YouTube channel type of content, but I can't just be like, I'm a dip for a week. Now again, people do that on a everyday basis. I'm sure there's some engineers listening to this, laughing at me like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, I need to leave my family for 3 days in a row, and I hate it, but I have to do it. I'm sure there's a trucker right now, truck drivers. Big shout out to you guys, man, because you guys transport a lot of important things that we need, and someone has to do that job. So I appreciate you guys. Stay safe, but I can't do that job. And when I hear families, that I work with, they're like, yeah, my husband, he drives for a living, and he does out of state stuff, and so sometimes he's gone for a week or two. It's a big kudos. Obviously, our military families, we've talked about it. I mean, that's a sacrifice that not only the active member but their families. Like, you can't just pick up and go everywhere with your family. It's not cool for their kids. So there's so much sacrifice that goes with it. So thank you, military families, and those who are serving and are active, and those who serve and are veterans. But it's a nice reminder that time is so limited, and it flies. And so if I want to create this personality and be this super famous person, and do these crazy things so I can grow my following, like obviously we see a lot of people do, I don't know, man. It's just not for me. I can't focus on that. I wouldn't. It doesn't sit right for me to have 1 million subscribers, but my own family doesn't even know who I am because I'm always traveling in the name of the algorithm. And we know there's other people that do that. I remember Honda Pro Jason had a conversation on Downstars podcast, and it was a conversation that I understand where Jason was coming from. Obviously, I strongly disagree, but that's his business model. That's the way he makes his money, and I respect what he does. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just is not for me. And I just, for me, it's just, yeah, I'd rather not blow up any time ever, but be able to hang out with my family, and feel like I'm not missing out on, because I'm already missing out on a lot of things when I go to work. I don't want to miss out on more. And that's why I always say to you guys, like, if this ever becomes a job and it's no longer fun, then I don't think I'll do it. I don't know. That's just me, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm wrong. But trying to create this crazy following when you're going through some hard times, man, like, none of these 500,000 followers are gonna actually help you. And we see that, like I discussed it on I think another Washington talk. I'm still sitting on license plate frames. I'm actually sitting on a whole box. I got 2 boxes, and 1 box is just there. And I appreciate you guys, whoever order, especially after that video. I don't say this so you guys go and order. I don't do that. I really appreciate, but you guys don't need to order anything. But it's a nice reminder, because I've been going to the little room where I have all those things, and I just look at them and I'm like, damn, what if I was to stop today? What does this mean? That no one saw my view, no one saw my vision, no one cared enough, and now I'm here with the box full of frames. Now obviously you guys know that it means a lot to me to have been continue to grow this channel, but it's not I guess a big part of my life as much as sacrificing time away, because there's always there's always shows, there's always things, like there's some stuff in New York that happens annually that I'm like, damn, that'd be cool to go see that. There's Mims Honda from London. He does some amazing meets out there. He was in Thailand. Like, Don't get me wrong, it'd be super dope to be able to go, but if I go, I want to take my family. I want to be able to do the car event, blah blah blah, and then the next 2 3 days just hang out with my family, so that way I don't feel like I'm neglecting them. Because a big part of this conversation is I feel like I'm already neglecting my family as it is. I going to work, being at home for about a month and a half, 2 months, continue to give me perspective, and it just gave me that reminder and that motivation. Like, hey man, like, what do you want to do with your life? You want to continue to go to work forever, or you want to be able to manage your your income and hopefully put yourself in a good situation. Now we know life will throw you lemons. I'm not pretending like I don't know that, but at least being able to control some of the things and be able to manage those things, I think it goes a long way. And again, this is just for me. I'm not saying that if you don't think like me, you're wrong. Nah, 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 none of that, man. Like, we all have different lives. We all choose to live differently. That's, I think, what makes this whole life experience cool. Hence why I started the conversation with, like, I like talking to people from different backgrounds, because we all have different views. Some other people may say, um, other people may have experienced death, in their family, or diseases, or like real tough times, that they may look at me or hear me and say, bro, like, just go and enjoy life. Don't overthink it. Don't think about retirement yet. Don't, because they see things different, right? Or they went through a near life death experience, and their perspective is like, bro, I don't, like, I don't even think about retirement. Like, I don't know. For me, since I haven't had those, and I hope I don't, I guess eventually it will. It's just part of life. The closest one, recently was Chubbs. It gave me more perspective of, like, damn, like, how am I spending my time? Um, is growing the channel, going all these different places away from my family, worth it? And to me, it's not. And it's interesting because I remember, my buddy Francisco Mata, FM Spec, he told me, he's like, hey man, just wait till your kid's here. Like, you're gonna see things different. And yeah, I still believe that I need to have my own time. I like to be at the garage. I like to, buy parts and continue to modify my car in a different way, however I want, right? I still believe that I'm still my persona, my own persona. But yeah, he was right. Once I've had my son, like, it just, nothing really else matters. Like, I I gave thumbs up to some dude today in a Porsche. It's a beautiful car. But if you were to tell me, like, hey man, you can't have that car, but then your goals are gonna be extended or pushed 20 years into the future, I'm like, nah. There's not one car or part at this very moment that can take me out of the kind of mindset that I have, of being able to attempt, because I don't think I can fully get out of the rat race yet, but to be able to attempt to get out of it. And that's a conversation I had with Chris, where I don't think of things as impossible. I think of them as possible. I'm very optimistic. The cup is always half full, and you just have to execute, right? You have to have a plan. You have to understand that time is finite, and we're all gonna have a time to say, hey, it's time. Whatever you believe, your time is done. And I think for me is more of, hopefully I impacted the world in a positive way. Hopefully I did spend time with my loved ones more than anything. And that's to me, like, some of the biggest things that I want to look forward to. And yeah, it's crazy. It's one of those things where perspective was given to me really quickly by, my dog almost dying. Although I really think he saw the white light, and I don't know. He's like, you know what? I'll give you a headache. I'll give you a couple more headaches, a little bit longer. And so this is the second big health scare we've had. he had a tumor, like my dog was 19 pounds for the longest, 20 pounds. And when I took him to the vet, they're like, he actually has a tumor. And so that was back in August of last year, 2023. And they're like, hey, we're going to take a test to see if it's cancerous, it's malignant or whatever, however you say it. It turned out it was. And so they said, hey, we're going to do an operation. If it has, we can't tell by the scans, but if it has gone to his liver or things like that, by law, we have to put him down on the table. And I was like, well, we're going to do it. I spent a little bit of change. My wife and I, we spent a little bit of change, but I told her I'd rather spend this money and know that I tried, because he's giving us way more happiness than whatever amount the bill is. Long story short, man, it was a 8.5 pound tumor, which I feel bad that he's been walking around with it for so many years. And I think that's part of the reason when I think it's growing back. That's what he's telling me, is getting a little bit bigger again. But man, he's a fighter, man. He's a fighter. He's had that big old ball next to his tummy for at least 5 years. And, he's Chubbs. He's a fighter. So that was the last scare back in August. And then some other stuff with his hand and his eyes. I mean, he's had little things. He's getting older. We see him, his back, he kind of loses his balance. I think he learned how to walk with the tumor, the weight, distribution. And so when they took that one out, like, I see his back kind of being more flimsy. So his back, I think he has arthritis. So, it's hard to talk about it, because I know that eventually it's going to come down to that, make the decision. Don't be selfish, and if it's time, it's time. But for now, a lot of things in my mind clearly. Bottom line is, I think I'm more focused on just spending time with family, getting out of the rat race, or attempting to get out of the rat race. And I don't know, I'm very content with where we're at right now, and we'll continue to push forward. And I don't know, we'll keep you guys updated on Chubb's health, but for now he seems good. He wants to eat all the time like me, so maybe that's why he hangs out with me all the time. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time, your valuable time. I appreciate you guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.